Hey guys, David here. Tonight we have a fast-moving story of survival, sacrifice, hidden experiments, and an ordinary man who discovers what it means to finally show up when everything is falling apart. Thank you for listening.
The Last Shift Among the Stars. Prologue. Just another rotation. Nereus filled half the sky. The enormous gas giant churned beneath Horizon Station in endless bands of cobalt, silver, and violet. Storm systems larger than continents rolled through its atmosphere, illuminating space with silent flashes of distant lightning. Most residents barely noticed anymore. After a few years aboard the station, even wonders became wallpaper. Milo Vance watched the storms through the transit car window while nursing a lukewarm cup of synthetic coffee. 33 years old. No promotions, no plans, no ambition. His supervisor called him reliable. His ex-girlfriend called him comfortable. Milo suspected neither description was intended as praise. The train glided through Horizon Station's residential ring. Millions of lights stretched into the distance. Restaurants, schools, markets, homes, humanity's greatest achievement surrounded him, and Milo's biggest concern this morning was a broken vending machine. His wrist communicator chimed. Maintenance request 88,420 First Vending Unit Failure Sector 9 Market District, Milo sighed. Living the dream. The train slowed near Central Plaza. Children chased a floating holographic whale through the concourse. Street musicians played beneath glowing banners celebrating Founders Week, one of Horizon Station's oldest traditions. Families crowded bakery stalls. Workers hurried toward morning shifts. Retirees gathered around panoramic observation windows to watch Nereus rise beyond the station's curvature. For a few moments Milo simply watched them. Ordinary people. Ordinary lives. The kind of scene nobody imagines missing until it is gone. 3 decks away, Rex Calder was running. Not jogging, not hurrying, running. The conspiracy enthusiast sprinted through a crowded corridor carrying 3 data tablets, a backpack, and an old paper notebook. He nearly collided with a delivery drone. Sorry, the drone replied automatically. Customer satisfaction is our priority, Rex pointed suspiciously. Exactly what a machine uprising would say. Several commuters laughed. Nobody took him seriously. Nobody ever took Rex seriously. At docking ring 7, the cargo vessel Persephone Drift emerged from jump space. The ship looked wrong. Scorch marks covered its hull. External lights flickered. Several communication arrays hung damaged and dark. Dock control attempted contact. No response. They tried again. Nothing. A supervisor authorized emergency docking. Routine. Ordinary. Forgettable. No one realized the decision would change the future of humanity. Mid-morning found Milo elbow-deep inside a vending machine. Rex stood nearby offering unrequested commentary. You know, Rex said, there's a classified research division hidden somewhere aboard this station. No. There definitely is. You're making that up. I'm rarely wrong. You predicted a meteor strike 3 years ago. There was a meteor. It burned up in the atmosphere. Details. Milo shook his head. The market bustled around them. Families shopped. Children laughed near a fountain. 2 teenagers argued about a gravball championship. A food vendor handed free samples to passing customers. Everything felt normal, comfortably normal. Then every display screen in the district flickered. Once, twice, 3 times. The interruption lasted less than a second. Advertisements returned. Announcements resumed. Life continued. Nobody reacted. Except Milo. Something about the pattern bothered him. It felt deliberate. Elsewhere aboard Horizon Station, deep inside a forgotten monitoring center, a sensor briefly activated. One technician frowned. A signal had appeared for less than a second. The source was impossible. The reading originated from beneath the station, far beneath it, below any documented structure. The signal vanished before he could investigate. He logged it as a malfunction. At docking ring 7, emergency responders boarded the Persephone Drift. The interior was silent. Lights flickered overhead. Blood stained the corridor walls. A medic discovered the captain alive but barely conscious. His skin burned with fever. His eyes were bloodshot. His hands trembled. "Help us," he whispered. Then he bit the medic. Across Horizon Station, millions continued their daily routines. Meetings, movies, shopping, lunch plans, weekend schedules. Children attended classes. Couples planned vacations. Engineers argued over maintenance reports. Nobody knew an ancient pathogen had entered the station. Nobody knew the first infections had already begun, and nobody knew something else had arrived alongside it. Near the end of his shift, Milo visited Observation Dome 4. Nereus stretched endlessly before him, beautiful, timeless, unchanging. The dome was crowded, families pointed at storms. Young students sketched the gas giant for school projects. A little girl pressed her hand against the glass and whispered that she wanted to become a starship captain. Her father smiled proudly. Milo smiled too. For the first time all day, he felt strangely content. Then the station lights flickered again. Once, twice, 3 times. The same pattern. For a brief moment, he thought he heard something. Not a sound. More like a distant memory. A whisper carried across impossible distance. Then it vanished. Milo laughed at himself. Too much coffee. Not enough sleep. That explanation felt easier. Far beyond Horizon Station, hidden within the darkness between stars, something ancient stirred. Not awake, not fully, but aware. A signal had been sent. A door had begun opening. And for the first time in a very long time, something looked toward humanity. Back in Observation Dome 4, emergency sirens suddenly sounded. One. Then another. Then dozens. People stopped walking. Conversations died. Confusion spread through the crowd. Milo turned. The station lights flickered. Red emergency indicators illuminated the corridor. Somewhere in the distance, someone screamed. The little girl dropped her sketchbook. Her father pulled her close. Fear spread through the dome like a wave. For the first time in his life, Milo felt genuinely afraid. The last ordinary day aboard Horizon Station had ended. The outbreak had begun. Chapter 1. The Malfunction. The scream lasted only a second. Then it stopped. Milo stood frozen inside Observation Dome 4, while hundreds of residents stared toward the corridor where the sound had originated. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Crimson emergency lights flashed across the curved glass walls, painting frightened faces in shades of red. For several long seconds, uncertainty held everyone prisoner. Then the station intercom crackled. "Attention residents, please remain calm. A medical emergency has been reported in docking ring 7. Security personnel are responding." The announcement repeated, twice. The crowd visibly relaxed. People laughed nervously. Conversations resumed. Several residents returned to their sightseeing. A few even applauded. Milo wasn't convinced. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. And when the station lights flickered, once, twice, 3 times, he felt a chill crawl down his spine. The exact same pattern as earlier. By the time he reached Maintenance Sector 12, chaos had begun creeping through Horizon Station. Service requests flooded every terminal. Door malfunctions, power fluctuations, communication outages, medical alerts, sensor failures, strange signal reports. The station network struggled to keep pace. His supervisor, Gerald Huxley, stood in the center of operations barking orders. "Vance!" Milo immediately regretted arriving. "Yes?" "Residential Ring C is reporting network failures." "Okay, go fix it." "That's normally it. It's your problem now." "Why?" "Because IT stopped answering." Milo frowned. "All of IT? Every department contact. That wasn't normal. Nothing today felt normal." As Milo gathered equipment, 2 technicians argued beside a diagnostic console. "It's happening again. What is?" "The signal." Milo glanced over. One technician pointed at a fluctuating sensor graph. A strange waveform appeared and disappeared across the display. The source coordinates were missing. "No location?" Milo asked. The technician shook his head. "Every time we try to isolate it, the signal vanishes." "What kind of signal?" "No idea." The technician hesitated, then lowered his voice. "It almost looks like a transmission." A moment later the screen went black. The signal disappeared. Neither technician looked reassured. Far below Horizon Station, hidden beneath layers of forgotten infrastructure, ancient systems quietly awakened. A sensor activated. A relay responded. Something buried deep beneath the station registered a change, for the first time in a very long time. It was no longer alone. Across Horizon Station, the outbreak continued spreading. The bitten medic attacked 2 nurses. 1 nurse infected 3 security officers. 1 officer infected an entire emergency response team. Each transmission multiplied exponentially. Medical systems began registering hundreds of violent incidents every minute. Most incidents were categorized as psychiatric emergencies. Nobody understood what was happening. Yet, Milo boarded a transit train toward residential Ring C. The normally crowded car sat nearly empty. Only a handful of passengers occupied 50 seats. Most stared silently at their communicators. One man trembled visibly. A woman nearby wiped sweat from her forehead. Another passenger appeared to be crying. Fever, all of them. Milo noticed immediately. The train accelerated. Outside the windows, Horizon Station stretched endlessly into darkness. Normally the sight comforted him. Today it felt unsettling, like something familiar wearing a stranger's face. His communicator buzzed. Rex called her incoming call. Milo accepted. Rex appeared instantly. Wild hair, wide eyes, maximum panic. Milo, what's wrong? Everything. Can you narrow that down? No. Try. I think Horizon Station is collapsing. Milo sighed. Again? Not metaphorically this time. That got his attention. Rex leaned closer. I hacked emergency medical traffic. That's illegal. Focus. What did you find? Hundreds of unexplained assaults. Milo frowned. Hundreds? Thousands now. The number hung between them. Thousands, not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. Even Rex wasn't joking. Milo. What? I think people are eating each other. The connection abruptly terminated. By the time Milo reached residential Ring C, emergency sirens echoed throughout the district. Families crowded transit stations. Security drones flew overhead. Public information screens displayed evacuation notices. No explanation accompanied them. Just warnings. Remain indoors. Avoid crowded areas. Report unusual behavior. Then, for less than a second, every display changed. The warnings vanished. A strange symbol appeared. A black circle surrounded by concentric rings. The image disappeared immediately. The warnings returned. Nobody seemed to notice. Except Milo. He stopped walking. What was that? The screen showed nothing unusual, yet the image lingered in his memory. A crowd had gathered outside Medical Center 8. Dozens of residents watched through reinforced glass walls. Some recorded video. Others simply stared. Milo pushed closer, then wished he hadn't. Inside the emergency ward, a patient was attacking medical staff. The man moved with horrifying speed. 3 nurses attempted to restrain him. He threw them aside. A security officer deployed an electric stun device. The patient barely reacted. Blood covered his face. His eyes looked wrong. Animalistic. Hungry, the officer shouted. The patient lunged. The crowd outside screamed. Milo stepped backward. His stomach twisted. This wasn't a riot. This wasn't mass hysteria. Something else was happening. Something impossible. Then something even stranger happened. For a split second, the infected man stopped moving. Completely. His head slowly turned toward a darkened observation window. Toward empty space. Toward nothing Milo could see. The infected seemed to be listening, waiting, responding to something unseen. Then the frenzy returned. The patient attacked again. The moment passed, but Milo couldn't shake the feeling that he had witnessed something important. Station-wide alerts activated moments later. Every display switched simultaneously. Every advertisement vanished. Every entertainment channel disappeared. Captain Elena Ward appeared on screen. Her normally composed expression looked strained. Horizon Station residents. She paused. Millions watched. We are currently experiencing a large-scale medical emergency. Another pause. Milo noticed she carefully avoided specifics. Please remain calm and proceed to designated safety sectors. A technician whispered something off-screen. Ward's expression darkened. Security personnel are authorized to use emergency containment procedures. The transmission abruptly ended. No explanation, no reassurance, nothing. That frightened Milo more than any speech could have. Night descended across Horizon Station. Artificial stars illuminated residential ceilings. Restaurants closed early. Transit routes suspended operation. Security checkpoints appeared everywhere, and still nobody understood the truth. The infected multiplied. Hundreds became thousands. Thousands became tens of thousands. The station was losing control. Before leaving the district, Milo passed a maintenance access door. The panel beside it flickered unexpectedly. A message appeared. Only for an instant. Project Erebus access denied. Then it vanished. The panel reset. Milo stared. What the hell is Project Erebus? No answer came. Somewhere deep beneath Horizon Station, something responded. A pulse. A signal, a distant awakening. For the first time, two mysteries had entered Milo Vance's life. One wore the face of infection, the other waited in the darkness below. Neither would leave him unchanged. Chapter 2. The Only Friend Who Prepared. The electronics shop was never designed to survive the end of civilization. Unfortunately, it was the best option available. Milo stood behind a display counter while Rex dragged shelving units across the entrance. Outside, panicked residents rushed through the corridor. Some carried luggage, some carried children, some simply ran without direction. Fear spread faster than the infection. The station had entered the most dangerous phase of any disaster. Nobody knew what was happening. Everyone was making it worse. Rex dropped another shelf into place. There! Milo stared at the barricade. That won't stop anyone. It might stop someone who is extremely polite. That's not reassuring. Reality isn't reassuring right now. Milo hated when Rex accidentally became wise. Emergency broadcasts echoed through the district. Remain indoors. Proceed to evacuation sectors. Avoid crowds. Report unusual behavior. The instructions contradicted each other. Nobody remained calm. Nobody trusted the announcements anymore. Then, every light in the shop flickered. Once, twice, 3 times. The exact same pattern Milo had seen earlier. The displays briefly filled with static. A whisper crackled through a nearby speaker. Not words, not exactly. More like distant voices speaking through water. The sound vanished instantly. Rex froze. You heard that too, right? Milo nodded. Neither man looked comfortable. Rex opened his backpack. Milo immediately regretted looking. Inside were 3 flashlights, 2 emergency radios, 5 batteries, a thermal blanket, a first aid kit, 4 protein bars, a portable plasma cutter, a hand-cranked charger, and a handwritten notebook labeled Apocalypse Preparation Guide. Milo stared. Please tell me that's a joke. No. How long have you had this? 7 years. 7 years. I update it quarterly. A violent crash echoed outside. Both men froze. Another crash followed, then screaming. Rex activated a security monitor. The camera feed showed dozens of people running through Market District 7. Something chased them. At first Milo thought it was a crowd. Then he realized the crowd was moving faster than any human should. One infected slammed into a fleeing resident. Blood splashed across the camera. The feed distorted. For a fraction of a second, a strange black circle appeared across the screen. Concentric rings, identical to the symbol Milo had seen earlier. Then the image vanished. The camera died. Hours passed. Entire sectors disappeared from station communications. Transit lines shut down. Medical networks collapsed. Security channels overflowed with distress calls. Every update sounded worse than the one before. Milo sat on the floor staring at his communicator. Dozens of missed messages, co-workers, friends, one message from his mother. Call me. The timestamp was 2 hours old. His stomach tightened. You should call her. Milo looked up. Rex sat nearby cleaning dust from the plasma cutter. What if she doesn't answer? What if she does? Milo hated both possibilities. He initiated the call. Nothing. Again, nothing. A third attempt. Silence. For the first time all day, genuine fear settled into his chest. The lights died. Complete darkness swallowed the shop. A second later a flashlight activated. Not Rex's. Both men spun around. A figure stood near the rear storage corridor. Pulse rifle raised. Armor scratched. Helmet missing. The name on the chest plate read, Cho. Both of you stay exactly where you are. Several tense minutes later, introductions followed. Hana Cho wasn't security. She was a systems engineer. The rifle belonged to someone else. Someone who no longer needed it. That answer explained far too much. What happened? Milo asked. Hana looked away. Medical Center 12 fell. The words hung in the air. There were too many infected. For the first time, Milo noticed the exhaustion in her eyes. Not physical exhaustion. Grief. She carried a small metal bracelet wrapped around one wrist. She caught him looking. My brother gave it to me. The statement came unexpectedly. He worked station security. Silence. Milo understood immediately. You don't know what happened to him? Hana shook her head. No. The single word carried enormous weight. She connected a portable terminal to a wall console. Several minutes later her expression darkened. What? Rex asked. She rotated the display. A station map appeared. Large sections glowed red. Residential sectors, medical sectors, transit hubs, entire districts. That's impossible, Milo said. No, Hana swallowed. That's 3 hours old. The room became very quiet. The station wasn't losing. The station had already lost. Then another anomaly appeared. A maintenance sensor buried deep beneath the station suddenly activated. The signal lasted only seconds, yet every display in the shop responded. Doors unlocked, then relocked, lights flickered, communications crackled, source unknown, sub-level access detected, Project Erebus. The message vanished before anyone could react. What was that? Milo asked. Hana stared at the empty display. I have no idea. The fact that she looked genuinely frightened made the answer worse. A priority transmission suddenly appeared. Captain Elena Ward. Liv! Emergency lights flashed behind her. Officers rushed through the background. Blood stained her uniform. Horizon Station residents. She paused. The outbreak is no longer containable. Nobody breathed. All remaining survivors should proceed immediately toward emergency evacuation zones. A distant explosion shook the command center. Ward never flinched. Do not attempt rescue operations. Milo immediately knew he would ignore that instruction. His mother was still out there. The transmission ended. Silence filled the shop. Rex closed the Apocalypse notebook. So, we need a plan. For the first time in his life, Milo didn't wait for someone else to decide. He thought about his mother, about responsibility, about the terrified people outside, about the station falling apart around them. We go find my mother. Rex smiled. Now that's the worst idea you've ever had. Hana checked her rifle. If she's in residential ring E, we'll need to cross half the station. Will you help? Milo asked. Hana looked down at the bracelet around her wrist, then toward the dark corridors beyond the barricade. My brother was last seen in that direction. Her answer wasn't yes. It didn't need to be. Rex grabbed the plasma cutter. Great. What? Milo asked. We have a terrible plan, mysterious signals, flesh-eating monsters, and a secret project hidden under the station. He sighed. Honestly, this is exactly the kind of week I was worried about. Outside, somewhere deep beneath Horizon Station, ancient systems continued waking, and for the first time, 3 survivors began moving toward a mystery far larger than the outbreak itself. Chapter 3. Shock and Survival. The barricade came down at 2:14 station time. Not because it failed, because they left it behind. Milo, Rex and Hana stepped into the corridor beyond the electronics shop. For a moment none of them moved. The hallway that had once been packed with shoppers now sat eerily silent. Abandoned bags littered the floor. Food trays lay overturned. A child's toy drone slowly rolled in circles against a wall. The station felt abandoned, yet somehow more dangerous than ever. Maybe everyone's hiding, Milo whispered. Maybe everyone's infected, Rex replied. Neither possibility felt encouraging. Emergency lights painted everything crimson. The red glow transformed familiar corridors into something alien. The trio moved carefully through Market District 7. Every sound felt amplified. Every footstep echoed. Every distant noise caused them to freeze. The station seemed to be holding its breath, waiting, watching. Then Hana stopped. What is it? Milo asked. She pointed ahead. A transit worker staggered from behind a kiosk. Blood covered one sleeve. His face was pale, his hands trembled. At first he looked sick. Then he turned. His eyes looked empty, hungry, wrong. Oh, Rex said quietly. That's not ideal. The infected man lunged, fast, far faster than Milo expected. Hana raised the pulse rifle. Blue energy flashed across the corridor. The infected collapsed. Silence returned. Nobody celebrated. The outbreak wasn't theoretical anymore. It was standing directly in front of them. Then something strange happened. The dead infected twitched, not from life, not from muscle spasms. His head slowly turned toward a dark maintenance shaft across the corridor. For several seconds he remained frozen in that position, as though listening. Then he became still. What was that? Milo asked. Hana stared at the shaft. I don't know. The answer bothered her. A lot. More sounds emerged from distant corridors. Running, screaming, growling. The station itself seemed alive and angry. We need to move, Hana said. Nobody disagreed. Residential Ring E lay 3 kilometers away. Normally the journey required 15 minutes. Now every corridor represented a potential death trap. The shortest route passed through Central Transit Hub. Unfortunately, Central Transit Hub was where thousands of frightened civilians had attempted evacuation, which meant thousands of opportunities for infection. As they approached the transit hub, the smell hit first. Smoke, burned circuitry, blood. The odor lingered through the station like a warning. Milo tried not to imagine what caused it. His imagination ignored the request. The transit station looked like a battlefield. Abandoned luggage covered the platforms. Security barriers had been smashed. Broken holographic displays flickered overhead. Emergency messages looped endlessly. Seek shelter, avoid contact, report infection. The messages had arrived far too late. Then they saw the bodies, dozens of them, scattered across the platform, some motionless, some moving, slowly, unnaturally. One woman sat against a wall staring into space. Her arm hung at an impossible angle. A second later her head snapped toward them. The motion was instant, predatory. The woman stood. Then another infected stood. Then another. Then another. The platform began waking up. But none of them attacked. Not immediately. Every infected on the platform turned toward the same direction. A maintenance tunnel on the far side of the station, their heads tilted, listening, waiting, responding to something unseen. A distant sound echoed through the structure, not a scream, not a voice, a low pulsing vibration, almost like a heartbeat. The infected reacted instantly, every one of them, their bodies tensed, then they turned toward Milo and the others. Run, nobody argued. The infected charged. Some sprinted, others stumbled, all moved toward the same target, living people. The station erupted into chaos. Milo ran harder than he ever had in his life. His lungs burned, his legs screamed. Behind him came dozens of pounding footsteps. The infected closed the distance rapidly. A maintenance cart appeared ahead. Rex pointed. Jump! The trio vaulted over it. The infected crashed into the obstacle. Bodies piled together. Several fell. The delay lasted only seconds, but seconds mattered. They reached a service corridor. Hana sealed the bulkhead behind them. Metal slammed shut. The infected struck the opposite side immediately. Bang, bang, bang. The impacts echoed through the corridor. The door visibly flexed. They'll get through eventually, Hana said. How long? Milo asked. Hopefully longer than we're here. Again, not reassuring. The service tunnel led through maintenance levels Milo knew well. For the first time since the outbreak began, he possessed an advantage. This way. The words surprised him. Leadership felt strange. Yet both Hana and Rex followed without hesitation. Hours passed. The group navigated ventilation shafts, maintenance tunnels, and forgotten utility corridors. The deeper they traveled, the stranger the station felt. Entire sections sat dark. Doors hung open. Emergency alarms echoed continuously. Civilization was collapsing one deck at a time. During a brief rest stop, Milo noticed Hana staring at the metal bracelet around her wrist. The same bracelet she carried in the electronics shop. You said your brother worked security. Hana nodded. For a moment she seemed unsure whether to answer. Then she did. He was supposed to transfer off Horizon Station next month. Her voice remained calm. Almost too calm. He hated this place. Then why stay? Rex asked. A faint smile crossed her face. Because I stayed. The answer hung in the air. My parents died years ago, Hana continued. He was all the family I had left. Nobody knew what to say. I keep thinking he's still alive, she admitted. And if I stop believing that, she never finished the sentence. She didn't need to. For the first time, Milo understood her fear. Not fear of dying, fear of losing the last person she loved. Then Milo found evidence his mother might still be alive. A communication terminal blinked softly inside a maintenance junction. Recent message log. Residential ring E, timestamp 20 minutes earlier. His pulse quickened. Someone had used the terminal. Recently, very recently. Hope returned. Dangerous hope. But hope nonetheless. As they prepared to continue, the distant vibration returned, stronger this time. The same impossible pulse. The same strange signal. Then a scream echoed through the tunnel system. Not human. Not entirely. The sound rose in pitch. Higher, sharper, more terrifying. Every infected nearby responded immediately. The station erupted with movement. Thousands of footsteps echoed through the darkness. Hana checked a sensor scanner. Her face paled. What is it? Milo asked. The infected aren't wandering. What do you mean? She looked toward the darkness. I think something is directing them. Nobody liked that answer. Far above them, somewhere inside the dying station, a larger mystery was already unfolding. The outbreak was evolving, and humanity was running out of time. The group finally reached the final maintenance hatch leading into residential Ring E. Beyond that door waited answers. Perhaps survivors, perhaps Milo's mother, perhaps death. Milo placed a hand on the hatch release, took a deep breath, and opened it. Chapter 4. The Rescue Mission. The hatch opened with a metallic hiss. Milo stepped into residential Ring E. For a moment he forgot to breathe. The neighborhood looked familiar. Painfully familiar. The cafes where he had eaten breakfast, the public gardens his mother loved, the apartment towers where thousands had once lived ordinary lives. Now everything was silent, not peaceful silence, the silence that follows disaster. Artificial dawn illuminated the district. Soft golden light spilled across empty walkways. Birdsong played through hidden speakers. The environmental systems still believed it was morning, still believed families were waking up, still believed civilization existed. The illusion made Milo uncomfortable. The station was pretending nothing had happened. Hana slowed beside a maintenance terminal. A portable scanner hung from her wrist. She frowned. "What is it?" Milo asked. "I'm getting sensor returns from below the district." "Below us?" She nodded. "Deep below us." The scanner displayed impossible readings, energy spikes, brief bursts of radiation, signals that appeared for a fraction of a second before vanishing, then reappearing somewhere else. "Damaged equipment?" Rex asked. Hana shook her head. "No. Aliens? No. Secret underground laboratory?" Hana hesitated. "Unfortunately, that answer is becoming more likely." The signal disappeared, but not before a fragment of text flashed across the scanner. "Project Erebus node active," then it vanished. Nobody liked that. The group continued forward. Abandoned vehicles blocked pedestrian pathways. Emergency drones drifted overhead. Some sparked, some spun aimlessly. One repeatedly announced, "Please remain calm." The message looped endlessly. Nobody remained calm. Movement appeared inside a nearby cafe. Everyone froze. A woman slowly emerged from the doorway. Uninfected. Alive. The realization felt almost shocking. She carried a kitchen knife with both hands. Her clothes were stained with blood. Not all of it appeared to be hers. "Please don't shoot me," she whispered. Hana lowered the rifle. "We're not here to hurt anyone." The woman nearly collapsed from relief. Her name was Lydia Marrow, a schoolteacher, one of the first survivors they had encountered. Lydia explained what happened. The infection spread through residential Ring E faster than anyone believed possible. Neighbors attacked neighbors. Families disappeared overnight. Security forces attempted containment, then vanished. No evacuation arrived. No rescue followed. The district had been abandoned. As she spoke, Milo noticed movement behind apartment windows. Curtains shifted. Doors cracked open. Faces appeared, watching, waiting, hoping. Survivors. More than he expected. Far fewer than there should have been. Hope flickered, small, fragile, but real. The journey toward Tower 17 continued. Along the way they gathered additional survivors. A retired engineer named Anton. Twin students named Jace and Mira. A cargo pilot named Selena Torres. This time Milo paid attention. Not just to names, to people. Anton constantly adjusted his glasses when nervous. Selena spoke with absolute confidence even when frightened. Jace never stopped asking questions. Mira never stopped watching exits. They felt real, human, worth saving. The group now numbered 9. Not enough to feel safe, enough to feel less alone. Tower 17 rose before them like a steel mountain. 300 meters tall, dark, silent, most windows remained unlit, emergency power only. The building looked abandoned. Milo prayed it wasn't. The main entrance had been sealed. Fortunately, maintenance workers knew alternate routes. For once, Milo's career choices proved useful. "That's new," Rex said. "What?" "Your job helping people." Milo rolled his eyes. "Don't get used to it." Too late. The maintenance shaft descended into darkness. The climb lasted nearly 40 minutes. Everyone hated it, especially Rex. "Who designed this?" "Engineers," Hana answered. "I dislike engineers." For the first time, Hana smiled. A small smile. Brief, gone almost immediately. "My brother used to say that." The group paused. You have a brother? Lydia asked. Hana nodded. He worked station security. The smile vanished. He was supposed to leave Horizon Station next month. Nobody interrupted. He kept trying to convince me to transfer with him. What happened? Milo asked quietly. I stayed. 2 simple words, heavy ones. For a moment Milo saw something beneath Hana's calm exterior. Fear, regret, hope. I don't know if he's alive. The admission lingered in the darkness. Then they continued climbing. Level 42 finally appeared. Milo's pulse accelerated. Every step felt heavier. The corridor stretched ahead. Apartment numbers passed slowly. 4,210, 4,212, 4,210, 4,216. Then, 4,218. His mother's door. Closed, silent, unmoving. Milo approached carefully. Knocked once. Nothing. Twice. Still nothing. His stomach sank. Mom? Silence. Mom? Then something moved inside. A chair scraped across the floor. Footsteps approached. The lock disengaged. The door opened. His mother stood there, alive. For a second neither moved, neither spoke. Then she wrapped her arms around him. Relief nearly broke him. Fear, stress, exhaustion, guilt. For one brief moment he allowed himself to feel all of it. You took long enough. Milo laughed despite himself. Only his mother could greet the apocalypse that way. Inside the apartment, several additional survivors waited. Neighbors, friends, residents she had protected during the outbreak. Milo wasn't surprised. Helping people was simply who she was. The reunion didn't last long. A distant scream echoed outside. Not human, not entirely. The same horrific cry they had heard earlier. Every survivor in the room froze. Moments later came another sound. Thousands of footsteps. Approaching. Fast. Very fast. Hana rushed to the window. Her expression darkened immediately. Oh no! Milo joined her. Below, the streets were moving. Not people. Infected. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Flowing through the district like a living river. And they were heading directly toward Tower 17. How? Lydia whispered. Nobody answered. Because everyone already knew. The scream had called them. And somewhere far below the station, hidden beneath layers of steel and forgotten infrastructure, another impossible energy spike appeared on Hana's scanner. Project Erebus was active. Whatever was happening on Horizon Station was bigger than an outbreak. Much bigger. The tower alarms activated. Emergency shutters descended. Automatic lockdown protocols engaged. The building prepared for siege. For the first time since arriving, Milo understood something terrifying. Finding his mother had only been the beginning. Now he had to keep her alive. Outside, the infected swarmed toward Tower 17. Inside, frightened survivors gathered supplies. And deep beneath Horizon Station, something ancient was beginning to wake. The rescue mission was over. The survival mission had begun. Chapter 5. The Siege of Tower 17. The first infected reached the tower less than 3 minutes later. Everyone heard them. The pounding. The scratching. The endless impacts against reinforced exterior doors. Tower 17 trembled. Not from structural failure, from sheer numbers. Thousands of infected crowded the streets below. The horde stretched across plazas, gardens, transit walkways and public squares. Every path leading away from the tower had disappeared beneath a sea of bodies. Milo stared through the observation window. The sight felt impossible. Only yesterday these streets had been filled with families, children, workers, neighbors. Now they were filled with monsters. How many? Lydia whispered. Anton adjusted his glasses nervously. Too many. Nobody disagreed. Emergency shutters sealed the lowest floors. Heavy blast doors locked automatically. Tower 17 became an island surrounded by death. For the moment, it held. For the moment. Inside the apartment complex, survivors gathered supplies. Food, water, medical kits, portable batteries. Anything useful. Anything that might buy time. The building housed nearly 200 survivors, far more than Milo expected, far fewer than it should have. His mother immediately began organizing people. Of course she did. Within an hour she had established food stations, sleeping areas, childcare rotations and medical triage. People listened to her. People trusted her. Milo realized leadership wasn't something she turned on during a crisis. She had been doing it his entire life. Rex volunteered for security. Nobody understood why, least of all Rex. "Shouldn't somebody responsible do this?" Hana asked. "Exactly," Rex replied. "Then why are you doing it?" "Because all the responsible people appear busy." The logic was terrible, yet somehow convincing. The first major problem appeared shortly after dawn. Power levels. Tower 17 depended upon emergency generators. Emergency generators depended upon fuel reserves. Fuel reserves were finite. The tower could survive weeks. Maybe, if consumption remained controlled. Nobody liked that calculation. The second problem arrived moments later. The infected were changing. It began with a security camera feed. One of the screamers stood in the center of the crowd below. Unlike the others, it wasn't attacking. It wasn't charging. It wasn't wandering. It simply stood still, watching, observing, waiting. Its pale eyes remained fixed on the tower. "Tell me that's normal," Milo said. "It isn't," Hana replied. "Good. Actually, it's worse. Wonderful." Sensor data confirmed her fears. The infected weren't moving randomly anymore. They were concentrating around access points. Elevator shafts, maintenance entrances, emergency stairwells, places with strategic value. The realization chilled everyone. The infection wasn't creating mindless predators. Something was organizing them. Hana enlarged another scanner feed. A strange energy pulse appeared beneath the district. The same impossible readings she had seen earlier, the same readings associated with the mysterious phrase, Project Erebus. "There it is again," Hana whispered. Milo looked over her shoulder. The signal pulsed, vanished, then reappeared hundreds of meters away, as though something beneath the station was moving. "What is Project Erebus?" Lydia asked. "No idea," Hana admitted. "But I know one thing." "What?" "Every strange thing we've encountered keeps pointing toward it." The room fell silent. For the first time, the outbreak felt connected to something larger, something hidden, something deliberate. Later that afternoon, Milo found Hana alone in a maintenance office. She sat in darkness studying station schematics. The glow from her terminal illuminated tired eyes. "You should get some sleep," Milo said. Hana laughed softly. "I haven't slept properly since this started." Neither had he. For a while they simply listened to the distant impacts below. Thousands of infected, still waiting, still hammering. "My brother would hate this." Milo looked up. "Your brother?" Hana nodded. "He worked station security." The words carried weight. "He always said Horizon Station was too complicated." A faint smile appeared. "Too many systems. Too many secrets." The smile faded. "He wanted me to leave with him next month." Milo already knew the answer. "You stayed." "I stayed." She stared toward the window. "I keep wondering if he made it." The admission felt painfully honest. Not the engineer, not the fighter, just a sister hoping. "If he's anything like you," Milo said quietly, "he's still fighting." Hana smiled. A real smile this time, small, but real. "Thanks." The moment ended when alarms erupted throughout the tower. A maintenance access tunnel collapsed beneath repeated impacts. Security monitors showed dozens of infected forcing themselves into utility corridors, heading upward, heading toward survivors. Panic spread instantly. People shouted, children cried, some demanded evacuation, others demanded surrender, several simply broke down. Fear threatened to destroy the survivors long before the infected could. Milo climbed onto a table. The action surprised everyone, including himself. "Listen!" The room slowly quieted. "We're still alive." Faces turned toward him, some hopeful, some terrified, some exhausted. "We have food," he pointed toward storage supplies. "We have shelter," toward the secure doors. "And we have each other." Silence filled the room. "We don't quit because things are difficult." His voice strengthened. "We survive because that's what people do." For a moment nobody spoke. Then someone applauded, another joined, then another. The sound spread throughout the room. Not celebration, determination. Later that night, Milo sat beside a panoramic observation window. Beyond the glass, Nereus dominated the sky. Lightning storms illuminated the darkness below. The gas giant looked exactly the same as it had yesterday. Unchanged, indifferent. His mother sat beside him. "You did well today. I nearly got everyone killed. You got everyone moving." "That's different." "No," she smiled softly. "It isn't." For several minutes they watched the storms together. The moment felt strangely peaceful, a tiny island of calm amid catastrophe. Then every light inside the tower flickered. Once, twice, 3 times, every display activated simultaneously. For less than a second, a message flashed across multiple screens, Project Erebus node active. Then it vanished. Everyone in the room saw it. Nobody understood it. And that frightened them more than the infected. Alarms immediately activated. Hana's voice echoed across internal communications. "Milo!" The panic in her voice erased any remaining peace. He ran toward the generator levels. Rex followed. Then half the security volunteers. The lower maintenance decks were chaos. Warning lights flashed. Steam filled the corridors. Technicians shouted over emergency sirens. Hana met them near Generator Core 2. Her expression said everything. The infected had found another way inside. Not through doors, not through tunnels, through the ventilation network. A maintenance worker stumbled from a side corridor. Blood covered his uniform. His eyes looked wrong, very wrong. Behind him came more infected, fast, hungry, screaming. The tower had become a battlefield, and the siege had only just begun. Chapter 6. Discovery and Terror. The infected hit the generator level like a tidal wave. The maintenance worker reached them first. Blood covered his uniform. His eyes had become something unfamiliar, something empty, something hungry. Hana fired. The pulse rifle flashed blue. The infected collapsed. 3 more appeared behind him. Then 10. Then 20. "Fall back!" Hana shouted. Nobody argued. The maintenance corridors erupted into chaos. Security volunteers dragged equipment into defensive positions. Technicians fled toward emergency shelters. Children cried somewhere above them. The sound cut through Milo worse than the alarms. Rex gripped his plasma cutter. "Any chance these things are allergic to industrial maintenance equipment?" "No. Thought I'd ask." The first wave slammed into the defenders. Pulse fire illuminated the narrow corridor. Metal walls echoed with screams. Milo pulled an injured technician behind cover. The man's arm was badly bitten. Both stared at the wound. Both understood what it meant. The technician forced a weak smile. "Tell my wife I helped." Milo swallowed. "You can tell her yourself." The lie sounded terrible. The technician appreciated it anyway. After 20 brutal minutes, the breach was sealed. For now, 2 survivors were dead. 6 were wounded. 1 infection was already progressing. Tower 17 had won its first battle. Nobody felt victorious. Hours later, Hana called an emergency meeting. The leadership group gathered inside a maintenance control room. Milo, Rex, Anton, Lydia, Selena, Milo's mother, and Hana. She looked exhausted, more exhausted than Milo had ever seen her. Dark circles sat beneath her eyes. Her hands trembled slightly as she activated the displays. "We found something." The room quieted immediately. Recovered files appeared across the central screen. Docking Ring 7. Persephone Drift. Medical records. Security recordings. Hidden archives. Files somebody had attempted to erase. A grainy video began playing. The bridge of the Persephone Drift appeared. Crew members staggered through smoke-filled corridors. Several were already infected. Then the recording froze. A black object sat inside a containment chamber. Smooth, organic, impossible. The room went silent. "What is that?" Lydia whispered. "No idea," Hana admitted. The object seemed almost alive. Not moving, not breathing, yet somehow present. The video resumed. One infected crew member approached the chamber. The black surface rippled. A pulse of darkness spread through the room. Every monitoring device briefly malfunctioned. Then the recording ended. Nobody liked what they had just seen. "The outbreak didn't arrive alone," Hana said quietly. The room grew colder. Additional files appeared, scientific notes, emergency reports. Sensor logs. One phrase repeated across nearly every document. Project Erebus. Rex immediately pointed. I knew it. Nobody acknowledged him. I'd still like recognition. Still nobody acknowledged him. Hana enlarged one of the files. Project Erebus Anomalous Biological Interface Program. Milo frowned. Interface with what? Hana slowly shook her head. That's the problem. More data appeared. Strange energy readings. Unexplained transmissions. Impossible sensor anomalies. Several reports originated months before the outbreak. The mystery had existed long before the infection. Far longer. A new image appeared. A station sensor map. Multiple readings originated beneath Horizon Station, deep underground, far below civilian access. The same location appeared repeatedly. Milo felt a chill. What's down there? No idea. Hana zoomed in further. A facility designation appeared. Vault Epsilon Access Region. The name hung in the air. For the first time, the outbreak felt connected to something larger, something hidden, something deliberate. The infected weren't the mystery anymore. They were a symptom. Glow of her terminal illuminated the room. She was staring at an old photograph. Milo hesitated. Everything okay? Hana laughed softly. No, at least she was honest. She rotated the photograph. A younger Hana stood beside a man wearing station security armor. My brother. Milo sat down. You never mentioned him. I never thought I'd have to. The answer carried years of history. He worked security. Milo studied the picture. The resemblance was obvious. He wanted me to leave Horizon Station. When? Next month. The words landed heavily. He thought something was wrong here. Milo looked up. What kind of wrong? Hana stared at the Erebus files. The kind nobody wanted to talk about. Silence followed. I told him he was paranoid. A painful smile appeared. Then Rex showed up and made paranoid look normal. For the first time all day, Milo laughed. The laugh faded quickly. You think he's alive? Hana looked toward the darkness beyond the window. I have to. The admission felt heartbreakingly human. Not an engineer, not a survivor. Just a sister hoping. If he's anything like you, Milo said quietly, he's still fighting. A small smile appeared. Real this time. Thanks. The moment ended when the station lights flickered. Once, twice, 3 times. Every display activated simultaneously. A message flashed across multiple screens. Project Erebus node active. Then it vanished. Everyone in the tower saw it. Nobody understood it. That frightened them more than the infected. Moments later, an emergency transmission arrived. Captain Elena Ward. Her face appeared on every screen. Blood stained her uniform. Smoke filled the background. The command center was clearly losing the battle. Yet she remained standing. If anyone is receiving this. Static interrupted her. There is a research began beneath the station. The room froze. There is a research facility hidden below Horizon Station. Another explosion shook the image. Ward ignored it. It contains answers. Her expression darkened. It also contains something far worse than the infection. The signal degraded. One final sentence emerged through the static. Do not let them open Vault Epsilon. The transmission ended. Silence filled Tower 17. Milo stared at the dark screen. Project Erebus. The black object. The impossible readings. Vault Epsilon. For the first time, the pieces felt connected. The outbreak wasn't the beginning. It was the consequence. And somewhere beneath Horizon Station, something ancient was waking up. Chapter 7. Vault Epsilon. For several seconds after Captain Ward's transmission ended, nobody moved, nobody spoke. The dark screen reflected frightened faces back at them. Hope had arrived. Unfortunately, it came carrying terrible news. A hidden research facility, a buried project, a warning from the last surviving captain on Horizon Station, and a name that seemed to make every mystery point in the same direction. Project Erebus. Outside, thousands of infected continued surrounding Tower 17. Inside, hundreds of survivors waited for answers. Neither group would be waiting forever. A hidden research facility? Lydia finally asked. Anton folded his arms. On a station this size? Absolutely possible. Then why hide it? Selena asked. Anton didn't answer immediately, because everyone already knew. Facilities were hidden when people didn't want questions. Rex pointed dramatically. I would like the record to show that secret underground laboratories were on page 43 of my Apocalypse notebook. Nobody acknowledged him. Color-coded, Rex added. Still nobody acknowledged him. The room slowly shifted from shock to debate. Some survivors wanted to remain inside Tower 17. Others wanted to search for evacuation craft. A few wanted to rescue additional civilians. Everyone had a different answer. Everyone was terrified. Milo studied the station schematic. Large portions of Horizon Station had gone dark. Power failures, communications blackouts, atmospheric processing disruptions. The station wasn't stabilizing, it was unraveling. We don't have time to argue forever, Hana said. The engineer enlarged a section of the map. A blinking marker appeared far beneath the industrial core. Captain Ward embedded coordinates in her transmission. The room quieted. Vault Epsilon is here. The marker sat beneath layers of restricted infrastructure, maintenance tunnels, research sectors, forgotten transit routes, places ordinary residents never knew existed. Milo frowned. How far? 23 kilometers. Rex groaned loudly. Why are all important discoveries extremely far away? No one knows, Hana replied. I blame engineers. Hana glared at him, again. The argument might have continued if a fresh alarm hadn't erupted through the tower. Yellow warning lights flashed, then orange, then red. Power grid failure. Sector blackout cascade detected. The room fell silent. Entire districts vanished from the station map. Hana immediately opened diagnostic reports, the color drained from her face. That's bad. How bad? Milo asked. Very bad. That's not a measurement. It is today. Additional reports appeared. Atmospheric processors were failing. Life support redundancy networks were collapsing. Emergency fuel reserves were dropping. For the first time, everyone understood the same thing. Tower 17 wasn't a refuge. It was a temporary pause. Eventually the station itself would kill them, even if the infected never got inside. Later that night, Milo stood beside the observation window. Below, the infected surrounded the tower like a living ocean. Above, Nereus filled half the sky. Lightning flashed through violet clouds. The view should have felt beautiful. Instead, it felt lonely. You look exhausted. His mother approached carrying 2 cups of synthetic coffee. Milo accepted one. Everyone's looking at me like I have answers. You have some. Not enough. His mother smiled softly. No leader ever thinks they have enough. The word leader made him uncomfortable. He had spent most of his life avoiding responsibility. Now responsibility seemed to be chasing him. For a moment neither spoke. They simply watched the storms. Then his mother asked a question. What scares you? Milo blinked. What? Not the infected. She pointed toward the tower below. What's really scaring you? The answer came immediately. Getting people killed. The admission surprised him. It was also true. His mother nodded. Good. Milo frowned. Good? If you ever stop worrying about that, then you're the wrong person. The words stayed with him. Across the tower, Hana sat alone in a maintenance office. The Erebus files remained open across multiple displays. Old reports, buried security records, corrupted personnel logs. One personnel file finally opened. Her breath caught. The image belonged to her brother. Officer Marcus Cho, Security Division. Status missing. Hana stared at the screen. Months earlier, Marcus had warned her something was wrong beneath Horizon Station. He talked about missing researchers, restricted sectors, strange transmissions. She told him he was imagining things. Now Project Erebus existed. Vault Epsilon existed. The station was dying, and her brother was gone. For the first time since the outbreak began, she allowed herself to hope he might still be alive. The hope hurt, but she couldn't let it go. Hours later, the leadership group gathered again. This time there were no arguments. Reality had settled the debate. We go to Vault Epsilon, Selena said. Anton nodded. If Captain Ward died sending that message, it matters. Lydia agreed. Even Rex looked serious. A deeply concerning development. What do we expect to find? Milo asked. Hana looked toward the buried coordinates. Answers. And if the answers are worse than the infection? Nobody responded. The silence was answer enough. Preparations began immediately. Medical kits, portable batteries, emergency oxygen, water recyclers, weapons, anything useful. Anything that improved survival odds. Not everyone would go. Hundreds still lived inside Tower 17. Someone had to protect them. Someone had to stay. The decision hurt, yet everyone understood. By morning, the expedition team was ready. Milo, Rex, Hana, Selena, Anton, 3 security volunteers, and Briggs. Milo blinked. Briggs? The massive security officer stepped forward. Bandaged, bruised, very much alive. I heard you were dead. I was busy. Busy doing what? Not dying, Rex nodded approvingly. Respectable hobby. The first genuine laughter in days spread through the room. Small, brief, important. The maintenance gate slowly opened. Fresh air from the circulation systems rushed through the corridor. Beyond lay abandoned streets, darkness, and millions of nightmares. The survivors gathered to watch them leave. Some waved, some cried. Some simply stood silently, hoping. Milo looked back one final time. Teachers, parents, technicians, students, ordinary people. People worth fighting for. The realization settled inside him. This mission wasn't about survival anymore. It was about giving everyone else a chance to survive. Fear remained, but it no longer controlled him. Milo stepped through the gate, the others followed, the doors sealed behind them. Ahead waited the ruins of Horizon Station. Below waited Vault Epsilon. And somewhere in the darkness, the truth behind Project Erebus was waiting. Whether humanity was ready for it or not. Chapter 8. The Unlikely Hero. The streets of Horizon Station had become a graveyard. Milo led the expedition through the shadows of residential Ring E. Tower 17 disappeared behind them. Ahead stretched kilometers of abandoned transit corridors, dark plazas, and silent structures. For the first time since the outbreak began, they were truly alone. Or at least they hoped they were. Nobody spoke for nearly 20 minutes. The station itself seemed to listen. Emergency lights flickered weakly overhead. Storefronts stood abandoned. Service drones lay motionless where they had collapsed. The civilization that once filled these corridors had vanished. Only echoes remained. Hana walked near the front of the group. More than once Milo noticed her checking an old personnel file on her handheld terminal. The same file. Again and again. Finally he spoke. "Marcus?" She looked surprised. "You saw that? You've opened it 6 times. 7. Sorry." For a moment she almost smiled, then the smile faded. "My brother works station security," Milo nodded. "The one who warned you about Project Erebus?" Hana stared down the corridor. "He said researchers were disappearing. The memory clearly hurt. He said something beneath, the station was wrong. And you didn't believe him." "No." The single word carried years of regret. A long silence followed. Then Milo answered quietly. "You're here now." Hana looked at him. "What if I'm too late?" Nobody had an answer for that. The question followed them deeper into the darkness. Rex finally broke the silence. "I miss vending machines." Everyone stared at him. "What?" "We spent years complaining about them." He pointed toward a dark food court. "I'd pay a ridiculous amount of money for one of those stale station sandwiches right now." Against all logic, laughter spread through the group. Small, brief, necessary. Then a distant screamer howled. The laughter vanished immediately. The sound echoed through the district. Far away, but not far enough. The expedition moved faster. As they crossed an abandoned transit plaza, every nearby display screen suddenly flickered. Once, twice, 3 times. Everyone stopped. The pattern felt familiar, wrong. A burst of static spilled from a public communications terminal. For less than a second, Milo thought he heard a voice, not words, more like a whisper buried beneath the signal. Then the displays returned to normal. The moment passed. Nobody spoke about it, yet everyone looked uneasy, especially Hana. Hours later they reached Central Transit Exchange. Once the busiest transportation hub on Horizon Station. Now it looked like the end of the world. Dozens of train cars sat abandoned. Some had crashed. Others hung partially suspended from damaged tracks. Bodies littered the platforms. Many were motionless. Some were not. Briggs raised a hand. Everyone stopped. Movement, platform 12. 3 wanderers emerged from the shadows. Former transit workers, former people. The infected had not seen them yet. For several seconds nobody moved. Then something strange happened. One wanderer slowly turned away from the group. Not toward them, toward the darkness beneath the station. The creature tilted its head, listening, waiting, almost as if it could hear something nobody else could. Then its cloudy eyes snapped toward Milo. "Oh no!" The wanderer screamed. The others immediately joined. The platform exploded with motion. More infected emerged from overturned trains, from maintenance tunnels, from service passages, every direction. "Run!" Briggs shouted. The survivors sprinted through the transit hub. Pulse rifle fire flashed behind them. Hana sealed a bulkhead. Dozens smashed through it moments later. The horde kept coming. Relentless. Endless. Hungry. Milo reached a collapsed section of track. A deep maintenance trench split the station floor, nearly 4 meters across. Everyone jumped. Selena, Anton, Hana, Rex, Briggs. Then one of the security volunteers slipped. The young man crashed against the edge. His fingers barely caught the platform. Below stretched a 20-meter fall. The horde closed rapidly. "Help him!" Nobody moved, not because they didn't care, because they were terrified. The infected would reach the trench within seconds. Milo looked at the volunteer, then at the approaching swarm, then back again. The old version of Milo would have run. Instead, he jumped. The impact nearly threw both men into the trench. Milo grabbed the volunteer's wrist. Briggs opened fire. Blue energy bolts illuminated the darkness. Bodies fell. More replaced them. "Move!" Briggs roared. Milo pulled with everything he had. The volunteer climbed upward, centimeter by centimeter. Finally, both collapsed safely on the opposite side. The group resumed running. Nobody spoke until they reached an abandoned maintenance station. Everyone collapsed from exhaustion, breathing hard, alive. The rescued volunteer stared at Milo. "You came back?" Milo looked confused. "Obviously." The young man shook his head. "No." His voice cracked. Most people wouldn't. The room fell quiet. For the first time, Milo realized something had changed. Not just inside him. Inside everyone else. They were beginning to believe in him. The realization felt heavier than any responsibility he had ever carried. Later that evening, they entered Industrial Sector 4. The atmosphere changed immediately. Massive machinery towered overhead. Assembly lines stretched into darkness. The sector looked abandoned, yet strangely untouched. Hana stopped suddenly. Look, a nearby display terminal still functioned. Emergency power preserved the screen. One message blinked repeatedly. Project Erebus personnel only. Authorized access required. Below the warning sat a corrupted security log. Most of the text was unreadable. One line remained intact. Transfer subjects to Epsilon immediately. The group exchanged uneasy looks. "Subjects?" Selena asked. Nobody liked the sound of that word, especially Hana. Her face had gone pale. "What is it?" Milo asked. She pointed to a personnel access number attached to the file, a security authorization code. Marcus Cho's code. Her brother had been here, very close to Project Erebus, very close to Vault Epsilon. Hope and fear collided across her face, very close to the truth. Suddenly a low vibration rolled through the station. The floor trembled. Dust fell from support beams. Warning alarms activated. Structural failure detected. Rotational instability increasing. The station was beginning to fail. Not just the people, the station itself. Horizon Station had survived decades around Nereus. Now it was dying, piece by piece. System by system. Milo stared through a shattered observation panel. Far outside, the storms of Nereus illuminated the darkness. Beautiful. Terrifying. Rex stepped beside him. "You know something?" "What?" Rex smiled, a genuine smile. "A week ago I'd never have followed you anywhere." Milo laughed. "That's fair. Now?" Rex looked toward the others, toward the frightened survivors who depended on them. "Now I'd follow you into Vault Epsilon." For a moment neither spoke. Then Milo looked toward the darkness ahead, toward the hidden facility, toward the answers waiting beneath Horizon Station. For the first time in his life, people depended on him. For the first time in his life, he intended to deserve it. Far below the industrial core, massive sealed doors slowly opened. Ancient systems awakened, forgotten machines activated. And somewhere beyond human understanding, something listened, waiting, watching, aware that visitors were coming. Chapter 9. The Shipyards. The warning sirens never stopped. As Milo and the expedition pushed deeper into Industrial Sector 4, Horizon Station groaned around them. Metal supports creaked. Distant explosions echoed through forgotten corridors. Every few minutes, the deck trembled beneath their feet. The station was no longer merely damaged, it was dying. Nobody liked talking about it, mostly because there was nothing they could do. The only question now was whether they could reach Vault Epsilon before Horizon Station failed completely. The corridor eventually widened into a massive transit artery. Everyone stopped. The view was breathtaking. A transparent observation wall stretched nearly half a kilometer. Beyond it floated the orbital shipyards. Hundreds of spacecraft hung suspended in enormous construction cradles. Cargo haulers, research vessels, passenger liners, military escorts. Ships of every size and purpose. Most were dark, silent, abandoned. But not all of them. A faint light blinked in the darkness. Then another. Hana stepped closer to the glass. That shouldn't be possible. A sleek transport vessel rested near docking platform 39. Its running lights flashed weakly. Emergency systems remained active. Hope surged through the group. "Can it fly?" Milo asked. Selena studied the vessel. Calculating. Remembering. Maybe. Nobody had ever been happier to hear the word maybe. For the first time since leaving Tower 17, an escape route existed. A real one. Then Hana noticed something else. A maintenance beacon flashed near the shipyard control tower. 3 pulses. Pause. 3 pulses. The same pattern. The same impossible pattern they had seen on corrupted displays throughout the station. The same pattern that appeared before every strange event. "What is it?" Milo asked. Hana stared at the signal. "I don't know." For a moment her expression hardened. "It was in Marcus's logs." Everyone looked at her. "My brother kept seeing references to repeating signal patterns near Project Erebus." The memory clearly hurt. He thought someone or something was trying to communicate. Nobody liked that explanation, especially because it sounded increasingly plausible. A loud crash echoed behind them. The moment shattered instantly. Movement. Lots of movement. The infected had found them again. Dozens emerged from access tunnels. Then hundreds. The horde poured into the transit artery like a flood. "Run!" Briggs shouted. The survivors sprinted toward the shipyard access bridge. The infected followed immediately. This time there was no hiding. No maintenance tunnels. No sealed bulkheads. Only distance. The bridge stretched nearly 400 meters across open space. Transparent flooring revealed Nereus below. Storms churned beneath them. Lightning illuminated the darkness. Rex glanced downward, immediately regretted it. "Nope." "What?" Milo asked. "I've decided gravity is offensive." "Wrong direction." "Still offensive." Despite everything, Milo laughed. The sound helped. The infected reached the bridge entrance. They charged across the transparent walkway, fast, terrifyingly fast. Halfway across, Milo noticed something strange. Several wanderers abruptly stopped running. Their heads turned simultaneously toward the depths beneath the station, listening, waiting. Then all at once, they resumed the pursuit. The behavior lasted less than 2 seconds, but Hana saw it too. "They keep doing that." "What?" Selena asked. "Reacting to something we can't hear." The observation followed them across the bridge, like a shadow. Then disaster struck. A support beam failed. The entire structure lurched violently. Glass shattered. Metal screamed. Several survivors fell to the deck. A massive section of flooring cracked beneath Anton. The retired engineer froze. The crack spread. Then the floor vanished. Anton disappeared. "No!" Milo lunged. His hand caught Anton's wrist, barely. Below them stretched open space, 1,000 meters of nothing. Then Nereus. Anton dangled above oblivion. The bridge continued collapsing. The infected kept coming. Every second made the situation worse. "Leave me!" Anton shouted. "No. Milo, no." The answer surprised even him. The old Milo would have calculated survival odds. The old Milo would have chosen practicality. The new Milo refused. Briggs grabbed Anton's other arm. Selena joined. Then Hana. Together they pulled. The engineer crashed safely onto the bridge. A second later, the entire section collapsed into space. Everyone stared. Nobody spoke. They had escaped death by less than a second. Again. "Is this leadership?" Rex asked. "What?" "Because I hate it." Exhausted laughter spread through the group. They finally reached docking platform 39. Massive blast doors sealed behind them. The infected slammed against the opposite side moments later. Boom, boom, boom. The doors held, for now. Everyone collapsed against walls, cargo containers, and maintenance equipment. Alive, barely. Selena approached the transport vessel. The ship's hull gleamed beneath emergency lighting. Its name remained visible. The Wayfarer. "Please work," she whispered. The access hatch opened. Everyone froze. Then a voice echoed from inside. "Identify yourselves." The survivors stared. The voice was human, alive, alert. Milo exchanged stunned looks with the others. They had expected monsters, secrets, research facilities. They had not expected survivors. Far below the shipyards, ancient systems continued awakening. Vault Epsilon was waiting. And somewhere beneath the station, hidden beyond human understanding, something seemed to be calling. The infected heard it. Marcus had tracked it. Project Erebus had studied it. Now Milo and the others were moving closer to it with every step. Chapter 10. Defiance. The voice came from inside the Wayfarer. Everyone immediately raised their weapons, or in Rex's case, raised a plasma cutter in a manner he believed looked threatening. It did not. "Identify yourselves," the voice repeated. "Female, calm, professional, alive." Milo stepped forward. "My name is Milo Vance." A pause followed. Then the access ramp fully lowered. A woman emerged wearing a weathered pilot's uniform. Dark circles framed her eyes. A pulse pistol rested at her hip. She looked exhausted, but alive, very alive. The sight almost felt miraculous. "My name is Commander Ava Mercer." She glanced toward the blast doors shaking beneath infected impacts. Perhaps introductions should happen somewhere less terrible. Nobody argued. Minutes later, the survivors gathered inside the Wayfarer's command deck. The ship was old, scarred, functional, most importantly, safe, at least for the moment. "How long have you been here?" Hana asked. 5 days. The answer stunned everyone. 5 days, alone, watching Horizon Station die. Ava activated several displays. Station schematics filled the screens, emergency routes, power grids, research sectors. She'd been studying the station, watching it, tracking it. "Captain Ward contacted me before communications collapsed," Ava explained. The room instantly focused. "You knew Ward?" Milo asked. Ava nodded. "She sent me here." The statement hit like a shockwave. Everyone leaned forward. "Why?" Selena asked. Ava hesitated. Then she displayed a classified file. Project Erebus. Authorized personnel only. Nobody liked seeing that title anymore. Every appearance made things worse. Project Erebus wasn't studying the infection. The room fell silent. It was studying the source. A new image appeared. The black organism, larger than before, connected to cables and containment systems. Something about it felt familiar. Not because they had seen it before, because they had felt it before. The same wrongness, the same pressure, the same sensation Milo experienced near the signal anomalies. The pathogen, the infected, the mutations. Ava paused. They all originated from exposure to this organism. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. "What is it?" Hana asked quietly. Ava shook her head. "We still don't know." The answer clearly frustrated her. "It was discovered beneath Horizon Station decades ago." "Below the station?" Anton asked. "Near Vault Epsilon." The room became very quiet. Everything kept leading back to the vault. Everything. Ava continued. "The researchers believed the organism was communicating." Hana immediately looked up. "The signal pattern." Ava nodded. 3 pulses. Pause. 3 pulses. The exact pattern Marcus had documented. The same pattern appearing throughout the station. The same pattern seen before every strange event. For the first time, Hana spoke about her brother without hesitation. Marcus wasn't chasing conspiracy theories. Her voice carried equal parts grief and relief. "He found something real." Nobody interrupted. "He kept saying the signals weren't random." She stared at the display. He thought something was trying to wake up. A chill passed through the room. Ava enlarged another file. Research notes. Failed containment reports. Behavioral studies. One phrase appeared repeatedly. Cognitive linkage event. "What does that mean?" Briggs asked. Ava answered immediately. "The infected aren't acting independently anymore. Images filled the display, screamers directing hordes, groups changing directions simultaneously, mutations emerging in coordinated patterns. The evidence was impossible to ignore. The infection wasn't chaos. It was organization, purpose. Something was guiding it." The review screens continued scrolling. Then Vault Epsilon appeared. For the first time, the survivors saw the facility clearly. Miles of underground laboratories. Ancient containment sectors. Research wings. Dormant reactors. And at the center, a gigantic circular vault door. Ancient, massive, wrong. "What is inside?" Milo asked. Ava's expression darkened. "We don't know. It gets worse." Of course it did. A security recording appeared. A 6-person team entered Vault Epsilon 6 months earlier. The footage lasted less than 3 minutes. Then static overwhelmed the feed. The final frame showed every team member staring at something off camera, something that should not have been there. No survivors returned. No explanation followed, only silence. The room remained quiet for a long time. Finally, Milo stood. "We keep moving." Several people looked surprised, even him. The decision came naturally now. Fear still existed, It simply no longer decided for him. We came for answers. He looked around the room. At Hana, at Selena, at Briggs, at Anton, at Rex, at Ava, at the people who had followed him this far. If Vault Epsilon started this, he pointed toward the dying station outside. Then it's where we stop it. Nobody objected. The realization surprised everyone, especially Milo. Leadership had become more than responsibility. It had become purpose. Suddenly the ship rocked violently. Warning alarms erupted. The blast doors outside finally failed. The infected were inside the shipyard. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Security cameras illuminated with motion. Runners flooded maintenance corridors. Wanderers spilled across docking platforms. Several screamers emerged behind them. Then something new appeared. Everyone stared. The creature towered above the surrounding infected, nearly 3 meters tall. Its limbs looked stretched, distorted, mutated. The pathogen was evolving again. "That's new," Rex whispered. "That's very new." Nobody laughed. Not this time. The giant creature smashed through a security barricade. Steel tore apart. The shipyard trembled. Ava pointed toward a service elevator leading downward. "We need to leave." "To the Wayfarer?" Selena asked. Ava shook her head. "No." She pointed toward the hidden depths beneath Horizon Station. Toward the place every mystery seemed connected to. Toward the place Marcus had unknowingly been chasing. Toward the place Project Erebus feared. To Vault Epsilon. The alarms continued screaming. The infected continued advancing. And for the first time, the survivors weren't simply running anymore. They were moving toward the source. Chapter 11. Loss and Resolve. The journey to Vault Epsilon began beneath a storm of alarms. The infected flooded the shipyards behind them. Runners, wanderers, screamers, and the towering mutation that smashed through steel as if it were paper. The survivors retreated into a freight elevator descending toward the deepest levels of Horizon Station. As the massive doors closed, hundreds of infected slammed into the entrance. Metal buckled, warning lights flashed. The elevator dropped. And for the first time in days, the monsters remained above. Nobody celebrated. Everyone knew the danger had merely changed shape. The elevator groaned as it descended kilometer after kilometer. The station above continued dying. Power fluctuations shook the walls. Emergency lighting flickered. Several displays showed structural warnings. Rotational stability was falling. Atmospheric failures were spreading. The station was running out of time. Rex stared at the scrolling alerts. "Well, what?" Milo asked. "I always assumed civilization would end because of taxes." Nobody responded. Rex sighed. "Tough crowd." The elevator finally stopped. The doors opened. Silence greeted them. The corridor beyond looked nothing like Horizon Station. Gone were the residential towers. Gone were the markets. Gone were the observation domes. Vault Epsilon belonged to another age. Black walls, angular architecture, ancient symbols etched into metallic surfaces, dim white lighting that seemed to come from nowhere. Everything felt wrong, not hostile, not ruined, simply wrong. "Who built this?" Selena whispered. Nobody answered, because nobody knew. As they moved forward, Hana slowed. Her eyes tracked the symbols carved into the walls. Some looked mathematical. Others resembled star maps. "What is it?" Milo asked quietly. Hana hesitated. "My brother used to talk about things like this." The group glanced toward her. She rarely spoke about family. "Marcus?" Milo asked. She nodded. He thought Horizon Station was built on top of something much older. Rex blinked. "You never mentioned that." "Because it sounded insane." She looked around the corridor. "Now I'm not so sure." For the first time since Marcus's death, Hana allowed herself to wonder whether he had been right all along. The thought hurt. But it also gave her something she hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. Ava led them deeper into the facility. Several automated systems activated as they approached. Displays illuminated, doors unlocked, ancient machinery awakened. It was as if the facility recognized them, or expected them. Waiting. That realization unsettled everyone. The deeper they traveled, the stranger the facility became. Laboratories appeared untouched. Research stations remained powered. Containment chambers lined the corridors. Most were empty. Most. One chamber still contained something. A dark object, smooth, black, organic. The same object seen aboard the Persephone drift. Except larger, much larger. It stood nearly 3 meters tall. And it appeared to be growing. Nobody liked that. Especially Hana. Sensor readings flooded her display. "This isn't possible. What isn't?" Milo asked. "It's alive." Silence followed. Then Rex spoke. "Everything terrible is alive." Again, nobody argued. Hana continued scanning. Her expression darkened. "The biology matches the outbreak." The room immediately focused. "What do you mean?" Briggs asked. She projected the data. Cellular structures, adaptive growth patterns, genetic markers. The similarities were undeniable. The infection didn't come from this thing. She swallowed. The infection is this thing. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. The revelation connected everything. The pathogen, the mutations, the screamers, the giant creature. They weren't separate phenomena. They were all extensions of a single organism, a single intelligence. Ava looked toward the containment chamber. "Then the infected aren't spreading a disease." "No," Hana said. "They're spreading it." The distinction terrified everyone. The facility suddenly shook. A violent tremor rolled through the floor. Then another. And another. The infected had found a way down. Of course they had. Security systems activated throughout the complex. Massive blast doors sealed. Warning sirens echoed. The survivors accelerated their pace. As they moved deeper, strange displays flickered to life around them. Fragments of old recordings, star charts, unknown worlds. One screen displayed hundreds of black spheres suspended above distant planets. Another showed entire civilizations gathered around structures resembling Vault Epsilon. The images lasted only seconds before vanishing, yet they left a lingering feeling. This had happened before, many times before. They finally reached the central chamber. Everyone stopped. The room was enormous. Several 100 meters across. A circular vault door dominated the far wall. The structure looked impossibly old. Ancient, titanic. This was Vault Epsilon, the source of everything, or so they hoped. A central control console remained active. Ava approached first, then froze. "What's wrong?" Milo asked. She slowly stepped aside. A body sat before the console, human, uniformed, dead. Captain Elena Ward. Nobody moved. The silence felt overwhelming. The woman who had fought for Horizon Station until the very end now sat motionless before the vault she had tried to protect. Milo approached carefully. Ward's hand still rested on the control panel. A data recorder sat nearby, waiting. He activated it. Ward appeared immediately. The recording looked recent, very recent. "If you're watching this," she paused. "What? Then I failed." Nobody spoke. The captain continued. "Project Erebus discovered something beyond human understanding. Images appeared behind her. Research teams, ancient ruins, the black organism, the spheres, the enormous vault. They believed it was a weapon." Ward shook her head. "It isn't." Her expression darkened. "It's a doorway." The room became silent, complete silence. "A doorway to what?" Briggs whispered. The recording answered. "We never learned." Another explosion echoed through the facility. The recording distorted briefly. Then Ward delivered her final message. "Do not open the vault." A pause followed. Then her voice softened. "If you're hearing this, humanity still has a chance." The screen went dark. Nobody moved for several seconds. Then something happened. The giant vault door moved. A deep metallic sound echoed throughout the chamber. The ancient mechanism awakened, slowly, relentlessly. The vault was opening. "No," Ava whispered. Hana checked the controls. Her face turned pale. "It's automatic." "What does that mean?" Milo asked. "It means someone activated it before we arrived. Everyone immediately thought the same thing. The infected, or whatever controlled them." The massive door continued opening. A narrow gap appeared. Darkness waited beyond. Not ordinary darkness. Something deeper, older, watching. Then every display in the chamber flickered 3 times. Once, twice, 3 times. The same pattern. Marcus's pattern. Hana stared at it. For the first time since the outbreak began, tears filled her eyes. He was right. Nobody corrected her. Nobody needed to. Then the first infected burst into the chamber behind them. Runners flooded through the access corridor. Dozens. Then hundreds. Briggs immediately opened fire. Blue energy bolts illuminated the room. The battle for Vault Epsilon had begun, and as Milo stared toward the slowly opening darkness beyond the ancient door, he felt something he had not experienced since the outbreak began. Doubt. Maybe Captain Ward had been right. Maybe some doors were meant to remain closed. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Chapter 12. Last Launch Window. The battle for Vault Epsilon erupted beneath a dying world. Blue pulse fire illuminated the ancient chamber. Runners poured through shattered access corridors. Wanderers climbed over them. Screamers unleashed piercing cries that echoed through the vault. The infected had become a flood. But now everyone understood something they hadn't understood before. The infected weren't merely chasing survivors. They weren't feeding. They weren't hunting. They were trying to reach the vault. That realization changed everything. Briggs stood at the center of the defense line. His rifle thundered continuously. Bodies fell. More replaced them. "Tell me we have a plan," Rex shouted. "We do," Milo yelled back. "What is it? We survive." Rex stared. "That's not a plan. It is today." Even in the middle of the apocalypse, nobody could argue with that. The vault door continued opening, slowly, relentlessly. Darkness spilled from the widening gap. Not shadow. Something stranger. The air itself seemed distorted. Reality looked thinner near the opening. Several survivors noticed it simultaneously. Their eyes struggled to focus. Distances appeared wrong. Shapes shifted when viewed directly. Anton stepped backward. "I don't like that." Selena glanced toward him. "Still your catchphrase." "It keeps being useful." The station suddenly lurched. Everyone nearly lost their footing. Warning sirens erupted throughout the complex. A synthesized voice echoed through hidden speakers. "Critical rotational failure detected. Gravity stabilization offline. The floor vanished. Not physically. Gravity simply stopped working. Tools, weapons, debris, bodies. Everything rose into the air." "Oh, come on!" Rex shouted as he floated upward. The infected floated too. For several seconds, complete confusion consumed both sides. Runners spun helplessly. Wanderers collided with walls. One screamer bounced off the ceiling. Rex pointed. "Okay, what?" Milo asked. That was funny. Nobody could disagree. The moment lasted only seconds. Emergency gravity returned. Everyone crashed back to the floor, including the infected. The battle resumed immediately. Unfortunately, the station wasn't finished collapsing. Additional alerts appeared. Atmospheric failure. Sector depressurization. Reactor instability detected. Hana checked the readings, her face drained of color. "The station is coming apart. How long?" Milo asked. She hesitated. Not enough time. "Hours." Silence followed. Nobody wanted to hear that answer. The station that once housed more than 1 million people had entered its final chapter. Ava suddenly called out, "Over here!" Everyone turned. A secondary control station had activated beside the vault. Ancient symbols covered the display. Most remained unreadable. One message translated automatically. "Access pathway active. External transit vessel required." Ava stared, then smiled. A dangerous smile. "I know what this means." Nobody liked dangerous smiles anymore. "The Wayfarer?" Selena asked. Ava nodded. The pathway beyond the vault wasn't designed for people. Everyone stared. It was designed for ships. The realization spread through the group. The Wayfarer wasn't merely an escape vehicle. It was part of the puzzle. Part of whatever Vault Epsilon had been built to do. Suddenly, every screen in the chamber flickered. Once, twice, 3 times. The same pattern. The pattern Marcus had discovered. The pattern that appeared throughout the outbreak. Hana froze. For a moment she remembered her brother. His obsession, his warnings, his impossible theories. Everyone had dismissed him, including her. Now she stood inside the proof. The realization hurt, and healed something at the same time. The darkness inside the vault pulsed. Then Milo heard a voice, not through his ears, inside his mind. Ancient, vast, patient. "You are not the first." Milo froze. The battle vanished. The chamber vanished. Reality vanished. For a moment he stood somewhere else. A shoreline beneath unfamiliar stars. Black spheres hovering above oceans. Civilizations gathered around impossible gateways. Entire species staring into the same darkness. Entire species making the same mistake, opening the door. Then came destruction. Worlds extinguished, cities erased, stars gone dark, The vision continued, one civilization after another, thousands, millions of years. The same pattern repeating endlessly, the same choice, the same consequence. Then he saw something else, a warning, a prison. Vault Epsilon had not been built to protect what was inside, it had been built to keep it contained. "Milo!" Hana's voice snapped him back. The battle returned, the infected returned, reality returned. Barely. "What happened?" she asked. Before he could answer, a deafening roar shook the chamber. The giant mutant from the shipyards crashed through the access corridor, 3 meters tall. Muscle and infection, pure destruction. The creature smashed aside dozens of infected as it advanced. Even the swarm seemed afraid of it. Briggs stared. "That's unfortunate." The giant charged. Briggs met it head-on. Pulse fire exploded across the chamber. The monster staggered, then kept coming. Briggs fired again. Nothing stopped it. The creature slammed into him. The impact launched Briggs across the room. He crashed into a support column. The chamber shook. Everyone thought he was dead. Then Briggs stood, bleeding, angry, still standing. Rex nodded. "That's why he's Briggs." The giant roared again. The station answered. Every alarm activated simultaneously. Structural failure, atmospheric failure, reactor failure, gravity failure. Horizon Station had entered terminal collapse. The countdown had begun. Milo looked toward the others, toward his friends, toward the survivors who had followed him this far. Fear remained. But something stronger had replaced it. Purpose. "We leave." Everyone stared. "What?" Selena asked. "We get back to the Wayfarer." The giant mutant advanced. The infected flooded the chamber. The vault pulsed with impossible darkness. The station died around them, and somehow the answer had become obvious. They could not save Horizon Station, but they could save the people still alive. "We run," Milo said. The others nodded. Not because it was easy, not because it was safe, because it was necessary. The survivors formed up, one final push, one final race, toward the Wayfarer, toward escape, toward whatever future still remained. Behind them, the darkness inside Vault Epsilon continued awakening, and for the first time in countless ages, something beyond the doorway noticed humanity. Chapter 13. The Long Escape. The race back to the Wayfarer began beneath a station that was actively dying. Every corridor shook, every light flickered, every alarm screamed. But something had changed since Vault Epsilon. The survivors were no longer running from the outbreak alone. They were running from a mystery far older than humanity. The battle for Vault Epsilon collapsed behind them. Briggs covered the retreat. The giant mutants smashed through support columns in pursuit. The infected flooded every corridor. Yet even they seemed drawn toward the darkness inside the vault, as if the doorway mattered more than the survivors. That realization haunted Milo. The infection wasn't random. The organism, Project Erebus, the black spheres, Vault Epsilon, the voice, all connected. For the first time, Milo suspected the outbreak might only be a symptom of something much larger. "Move!" Briggs roared. Nobody needed encouragement. The survivors sprinted through collapsing maintenance corridors. Ava navigated using emergency schematics. Hana monitored structural failures. Selena watched their rear. Anton limped slightly from earlier injuries. Rex somehow continued talking despite running for his life. "I just want everyone to know." "What?" Selena asked. "If we survive this." "Yes, I'm filing a formal complaint." "Against who?" Rex pointed toward the collapsing station. "Everyone." Despite everything, laughter broke through the fear. The sound felt important. Human, alive. Behind them came the roar of the giant mutant. The laughter ended immediately. The creature was gaining, fast. The station suddenly lurched. A violent impact threw everyone sideways. Support beams twisted. Bulkheads buckled. Then reality seemed to tear open. A massive crack ripped across the corridor wall. The hull failed. Space appeared. Cold, silent, infinite. Atmosphere screamed into the void. The decompression wave struck instantly. People grabbed handrails, pipes, anything. Several infected were not so fortunate. The horde behind them vanished into space. Dozens disappeared. Then hundreds. The giant mutant slammed into a support column and barely held on. For the first time, the monster looked vulnerable. Then emergency bulkheads deployed. Massive doors sealed the rupture. The corridor stabilized. Everyone collapsed against nearby walls. Alive, barely. "We're never doing that again," Rex announced. "Agreed," Hana replied. The station lights suddenly died. Complete darkness swallowed the corridor. Only emergency glow strips remained. Red, dim, unsettling. The route toward the shipyards stretched through abandoned maintenance sectors. For a moment, the group simply stood there, exhausted. Then Milo remembered Tower 17, his mother, the survivors, the people who had trusted him. He stopped walking. Everyone noticed. "What is it?" Ava asked. Milo stared at the schematic. Tower 17 still appeared. Power weak, but operational. Hundreds remained inside, waiting, trusting them, trusting him. The responsibility settled heavily onto his shoulders. Then Hana quietly placed a hand on his arm. "We're going back." Milo looked at her. "What?" After we reached the Wayfarer, the others nodded, one by one. Briggs, Selena, Anton, Ava, even Rex. "We didn't come this far to abandon people," Rex said. The word surprised everyone, especially Rex. For the first time since leaving the tower, genuine hope returned. Not survival, hope. There was a difference. Hours later, they emerged into the orbital shipyards. The sight stole everyone's breath. Horizon Station was dying. Entire districts rotated out of alignment. Massive fires burned across residential sectors. Explosions illuminated the darkness. Debris drifted away into space. The station looked wounded. Mortally. Milo stared through the observation glass. The place had been his home. Now it resembled a battlefield. Beside him, Hana watched silently. "When this started," she said softly, "I only wanted to survive." Milo glanced toward her. "And now?" She looked toward the burning station. "Now I want it to mean something." The answer lingered between them. For the first time, Milo understood her better. Not just as an engineer, not just as a survivor, as someone carrying loss, as someone afraid the people who died would be forgotten. The Wayfarer waited exactly where they left it. Running lights blinked softly. A tiny beacon of survival amid catastrophe. The group crossed the docking platform quickly. Every step felt lighter, closer, safer. Then the alarms changed. A new warning echoed throughout the shipyard. Unauthorized mass movement detected. Everyone froze. "What does that mean?" Anton asked. Nobody answered, because the answer appeared moments later. The infected. Thousands of them. Every corridor leading into the shipyards erupted with movement. The swarm had followed. The largest horde any of them had ever seen surged toward docking platform 39. Runners, wanderers, screamers, an ocean of infection. And at its center stood the giant mutant, still alive, still hunting, still coming. But now Milo noticed something else. Several infected periodically stopped moving, turned toward empty space, and emitted the same three-pulse vocal pattern they had heard near Vault Epsilon. The pattern, again, not random, never random. The outbreak and the signal were connected. The realization struck him like lightning. Whatever waited beyond the doorway was already influencing events. Maybe it always had. "Run!" Briggs shouted. The survivors sprinted. The Wayfarer's access ramp lowered automatically. Ava raced ahead. The ship's engines began warming. Power levels surged. Navigation systems activated. Life support engaged. The vessel awakened. Behind them, the horde closed rapidly. Pulse fire illuminated the docking platform. Briggs dropped infected by the dozen. Selena fired beside him. Hana joined. For one final moment, the survivors stood together, not running, not hiding, fighting. Then the giant mutant charged. The platform trembled beneath its weight. The creature roared. The swarm answered. And everyone understood the same thing. The station was lost. The battle was lost. But they were not. "Board the ship!" Milo shouted. Nobody hesitated. One by one, they crossed the ramp. Briggs entered last. The access hatch sealed. The giant mutant slammed into the hull a second later. The entire vessel shuddered. Warning lights flashed. Then the engines ignited. Blue light flooded the shipyard. The Wayfarer lifted from the platform, slowly at first, then faster. The giant mutant shrank below. The swarm became a sea of movement. The ship climbed toward open space. For the first time in days, silence filled the cabin. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. They simply sat there, alive, Exhausted, together, many cried. Several laughed. Rex somehow did both simultaneously. Outside the viewport, Horizon Station continued breaking apart, and deep within its dying heart, the darkness beyond Vault Epsilon continued awakening. Humanity had escaped. Unfortunately, the signal had escaped too. Chapter 14. Across the Abyss. The Wayfarer escaped Horizon Station for exactly 11 minutes. Those 11 minutes felt unreal. No alarms, no infected, no screaming, no collapsing corridors. Only the steady hum of functioning engines and the quiet breathing of exhausted survivors. For the first time since the outbreak began, nobody was actively running for their lives. The feeling was so unfamiliar that several people didn't trust it. Rex summed up the situation perfectly. This feels like a trap. Nobody disagreed. Across the ship, survivors sat in stunned silence. Some slept where they collapsed, some cried quietly, others simply stared through the viewports. The adrenaline that had sustained them for days was finally fading. And in its place came grief. Real grief. The kind that had been waiting patiently behind survival. Milo stood alone on the command deck. Beyond the glass, Horizon Station drifted against the swirling backdrop of Nereus. From a distance it almost looked beautiful. The fires were hidden. The bodies were invisible. The destruction seemed distant. Only those who had lived through it knew the truth. Entire districts were dead. Millions were gone. And hundreds of survivors still remained inside Tower 17. Including his mother. The thought refused to leave him. Every kilometer the Wayfarer traveled felt wrong. Every second increased the distance. Every second felt like abandonment. "You aren't thinking about yourself." Ava's voice broke the silence. Milo turned. "That's unusual," Ava continued. "What does that mean?" "It means the Milo everyone describes spent most of his life avoiding responsibility." "That's harsh." "It's also true." Milo couldn't argue. Ava looked toward Horizon Station. "You're thinking about the people we left behind." Milo nodded. "All of them." The commander studied him for a moment. Then she moved to the flight controls. "We're turning around." The bridge fell silent. Even Rex stopped talking. A deeply concerning event. "We're what?" Selena asked. "We're going back." Ava activated a tactical display. Emergency transponders appeared across the damaged station. Tower 17 emergency shelters, maintenance bunkers, medical safe zones. Thousands of survivors still lived, not many compared to the station's population, but enough. Enough to matter. "One ship can't save everyone," Hana said quietly. "No," Ava nodded. "But it might save someone." Nobody could argue with that. The debate ended before it began. The Wayfarer rolled gracefully in space, its engines fired, its course shifted, and the ship headed back toward the nightmare. Hours passed. The station slowly grew larger. And stranger. The closer they came, the more obvious the damage became. Entire habitat rings rotated unevenly. Massive fractures spread across the superstructure. Emergency beacons blinked from 1,000 locations. Horizon Station was no longer a city. It was a wreck held together by momentum and hope. Then the sensors detected something impossible. A faint signal. Not from the station. Beyond it. Far beyond it. Ava frowned. "That's strange." "What is?" Milo asked. The navigation display illuminated. One contact appeared. Then another. Then dozens. Then hundreds. The bridge became silent. None of the contacts behaved like ships. Their signatures fluctuated constantly. Appearing. Disappearing. Returning. Vanishing again. Almost as though they existed only part of the time. Anton slowly sat down. "I don't like this." "No surprise there," Selena replied. "This is different." Everyone noticed the fear in his voice. The retired engineer had survived the outbreak. The siege, Vault Epsilon, the collapsing station. Very little frightened him anymore. Yet this did. That mattered. The contacts continued multiplying. Then every screen aboard the Wayfarer flickered. Once. Twice. 3 times. The exact pattern from Vault Epsilon. The exact pattern from the black organism. The exact pattern seen before every impossible event. Nobody spoke. Everyone remembered. Whatever waited beyond the doorway was no longer confined to Horizon Station. It was reaching outward. The darkness between stars suddenly felt much larger, and much less empty. Then Milo heard the voice. Not through his ears, inside his thoughts. The same impossible presence, the same ancient intelligence, the same vast awareness that had spoken near the vault. "We see you." The message carried more than words. A feeling accompanied it. Curiosity, recognition, patience. Milo staggered backward. Then Hana grabbed a nearby console. Selena nearly fell. Ava winced. They had heard it too. The realization chilled everyone. Whatever this thing was. It wasn't speaking only to Milo anymore. It was speaking to all of them. Suddenly alarms exploded across the bridge. Proximity alert. Everyone turned toward the display. One of the strange contacts had appeared directly ahead. No approach vector, no acceleration, no warning. It simply existed. The object resembled nothing humanity had ever built. A sphere, black, perfectly smooth, larger than the Wayfarer. Its surface reflected no light. Even Nereus appeared distorted around it. The object felt wrong, not hostile. Worse, impossible. The sphere remained motionless, watching, observing, waiting. And suddenly, Milo remembered the screamer outside Tower 17. The same stillness, the same attention, the same unsettling patience. A connection existed. The infection. Project Erebus. The black organism. Vault Epsilon. The sphere. All pieces of the same mystery, all connected. Then the sphere vanished. Instantly. No acceleration, no jump signature, no energy discharge, nothing. One moment it existed, the next it did not. The bridge remained silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Finally Rex spoke. "I miss zombies." The tension shattered. Laughter spread through the bridge. Nervous, exhausted, human. But even as they laughed, everyone understood the truth. The outbreak was never the whole story. Maybe it never had been. The infected were part of something larger, something older, something that had been waiting long before humanity reached the stars. Then Horizon Station filled the forward viewport. Tower 17's emergency beacon still blinked, still alive, still waiting. Milo stared at the distant tower. The mission had changed. They were no longer racing to survive. They were racing to save what remained. And somewhere beyond the station, beyond the spheres, beyond the doorway, something had finally noticed humanity. The Wayfarer accelerated toward Horizon Station, toward rescue, toward answers, toward the next disaster. Behind them, hidden within the darkness between stars, hundreds of impossible contacts slowly awakened. Chapter 15. The Price of Return. Horizon Station filled the forward viewport. Closer, larger, dying. The station no longer resembled humanity's greatest achievement. Entire habitat rings had fractured. Residential sectors burned like scattered embers. Massive pieces of the superstructure drifted into space. What had once housed millions now looked like the skeleton of a fallen giant. Nobody on the Wayfarer spoke for several minutes. The sight demanded silence. Tower 17's beacon still blinked, weak, flickering, but alive. Milo stared at the signal. His mother was down there. Lydia, Anton's friends, families, children, hundreds of survivors who had trusted them to come back. The tiny blinking light carried more weight than the collapsing station around it. "We made it." The words came from Hana, quiet, almost disbelieving. "Not yet," Ava replied. Nobody argued. The universe had developed a habit of punishing optimism. The Wayfarer descended through drifting debris, broken transit cars, shattered habitat panels, twisted support beams. Fragments of ordinary lives floated silently through space. A child's bicycle spun slowly past the viewport. Rex watched it drift away. For once he had no joke. The ship finally approached Tower 17. Relief swept through the bridge. The tower still stood, scarred, damaged, darkened, but standing. Against every prediction, against every probability, against every nightmare. Then the alarms activated. "Of course they did," Rex muttered. A massive object appeared on sensors. Not a ship, not infected, not one of the impossible spheres. Debris, a lot of debris. An entire residential support structure had broken free from the station. Thousands of tons of metal and composite material. And it was falling directly toward Tower 17. The bridge became silent. Everyone understood immediately. If the structure struck the tower, the building would collapse. Everyone inside would die. Ava studied the projected trajectory. "Can we stop it?" Selena asked. Ava hesitated. The worst possible answer. Maybe, Nobody liked that word. Maybe meant uncertainty, maybe meant risk, maybe meant sacrifice. The solution appeared on every tactical display. The Wayfarer. The ship could intercept the debris. Its engines might alter the object's path. Might. The maneuver would place the ship directly in danger. A collision could destroy the vessel, damage the reactor, kill everyone aboard. The choice hung over the bridge, heavy, unavoidable. Then Briggs stood. We do it. No hesitation, no speech, no debate. Just certainty. One by one the others nodded. Milo looked around the bridge. At Hana, at Ava, at Selena, at Rex, at Briggs, at the people who had survived Horizon Station together. They were no longer strangers sharing danger. They had become something else. Something stronger. Family. The Wayfarer accelerated. Its engines ignited with blinding blue light. Ava guided the ship into position. This is a terrible idea. Correct, Hana replied. Glad we're all in agreement. The engines roared. The ship pushed against the drifting structure. At first nothing happened. Then the debris moved. A fraction, a meter, 10 meters. The trajectory slowly shifted. Tower 17 slid out of the impact corridor. Cheers erupted across the ship. For exactly 3 seconds. Then the debris clipped the Wayfarer. The impact was catastrophic. The bridge exploded with sparks. Warning alarms screamed. Everyone was thrown from their seats. The ship spun violently. Milo, I'm okay! He wasn't. But neither was anyone else. The Wayfarer drifted helplessly beside the tower. Power failures spread throughout the ship. Several compartments lost atmosphere. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut. Life support systems switched to reserve power. The vessel had saved the tower. Now someone needed to save the vessel. Ava pulled up the damage report. The color drained from her face. The primary engine core had ruptured. Without repairs, the Wayfarer would never leave orbit. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not ever. Silence settled across the bridge. Everyone knew what that meant. Someone would need to enter the damaged engine compartment. Someone would need to manually stabilize the reactor. Someone would need to stay behind. For the first time since the outbreak began, there was no clever solution. No alternate route. No hidden tunnel. No lucky escape. Only sacrifice. Real sacrifice. Milo walked toward the observation window. Tower 17 still stood. The beacon still blinked. Hope still existed. Beside him, Hana approached quietly. For a long moment neither spoke. Finally Hana broke the silence. When I stayed on Horizon Station, everyone said I was making a mistake. Milo looked toward her. I had opportunities to leave. She stared at the ruined station. My brother got off world years ago. He begged me to go. You never told us that. Hana smiled sadly. There wasn't much time for personal conversations during the apocalypse. Fair point. I stayed because I thought someone should keep things running. She looked toward the damaged ship. Funny how that keeps happening. The words lingered. For the first time, Milo understood something important about Hana. She wasn't brave because she wasn't afraid. She was brave because she stayed anyway, just like him. A sudden tremor rolled through the ship. Every display flickered. Once, twice, 3 times. The exact pattern from Vault Epsilon. The exact pattern from the spheres. The exact pattern from the voice. Everyone on the bridge froze. For a brief instant, the stars outside appeared distorted, as though reality itself bent slightly. Then the effect vanished. No explanation, no source, only a reminder. Whatever waited beyond the doorway was still watching, still listening, still connected to the outbreak somehow. The infection, the organism, Project Erebus, Vault Epsilon, the spheres, pieces of the same puzzle. And somehow, Milo suspected the next decision he made would matter to it. Ava finally turned from the reactor report. Her voice was barely above a whisper. There is one way to save the ship. Nobody spoke, nobody needed to. The room already knew. Outside, Horizon Station continued to die. Inside the Wayfarer, another countdown had begun. The rescue had succeeded. Now came the cost. Chapter 16. The man who finally showed up. Nobody spoke. The bridge remained silent except for warning alarms. The Wayfarer drifted beside the ruined station. Power failures cascaded through damaged systems. Emergency lights flashed red across exhausted faces. Outside the viewport, Horizon Station continued breaking apart. Inside the ship, another countdown had begun. The reactor would fail, the ship would die, the survivors would be trapped, and eventually everyone Milo had fought to save would be lost, unless someone stayed behind. The equation was brutally simple. Everyone understood it. Everyone hated it. Ava projected the reactor schematic. The damaged containment chamber glowed crimson. A single maintenance access route blinked. Manual stabilization only, Ava said quietly. Nobody liked her tone. Once containment activates, the chamber seals permanently. Permanent. The words settled over the bridge. No hidden escape route, no clever workaround, no miracle, only sacrifice. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Briggs stood. "I'll do it," the response came instantly. "No, absolutely not. We need you." Briggs looked genuinely confused. Someone has to go. His calmness somehow made it worse. For days he had stood between survivors and death, again and again and again. Milo stared at him. Briggs had already paid enough. Then something inside Milo settled into place. A realization, a certainty, a truth that had been growing since the first scream inside Observation Dome 4. This wasn't Briggs' responsibility. It was his. Milo stood. "No." Every face turned toward him. Briggs frowned. "No?" Milo shook his head. "I'll do it." The bridge exploded with objections. Even Ava. Even Selena. Even Anton. Especially Rex. "That is the dumbest thing you've ever said. Thank you. That wasn't a compliment." "I know." For the first time in days, Milo smiled. A real smile. Not because he wasn't afraid. Because he finally understood what needed to happen. Leadership wasn't being the strongest person in the room. It wasn't being the smartest. It wasn't giving orders. It was accepting responsibility when nobody else could. And for most of his life, Milo Vance had avoided responsibility. His supervisor had called him reliable. His ex-girlfriend had called him comfortable. Both had been right. Comfort had always been easier than purpose. Not anymore. Rex stepped forward. His voice cracked slightly. "You don't get to decide this alone." Milo looked at his oldest friend, the conspiracy theorist, the disaster magnate, the brother he never officially had. "Actually," Milo said softly, "I think this is the one thing I do." Silence. Then Rex laughed, a broken laugh, half grief, half pride. "You finally became responsible." Terrible timing. That earned laughter and tears at the same time. Then Hana stepped forward. Unlike the others, she said nothing immediately. She simply looked at him. The engineer who had survived impossible odds. The woman who had stayed on Horizon Station when she could have left. The woman who kept choosing people over safety. Finally she spoke. "You don't have to carry everything." Milo smiled sadly. "I know. Then why?" The question wasn't angry. It was honest. The kind of question that deserved an honest answer. Milo looked around the bridge. At Ava. At Briggs. At Selena. At Anton. At Rex. At the people who had become family. Then he looked back at Hana. "Because you all taught me something. Nobody spoke. You stayed." He nodded toward Hana. "Even when it was dangerous. Toward Briggs. You protected people." Toward Ava. "You kept fighting." Toward Rex. "You never stopped believing there was a way forward." Rex blinked. "That might be the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me. It'll never happen again." "Good. I'd hate to develop expectations." The laughter helped, only a little, because everyone knew what came next. Hours passed in a blur of evacuation operations. The Wayfarers' remaining shuttles transported survivors from Tower 17, families, children, teachers, mechanics, neighbors, ordinary people. The kind of people Milo had spent years overlooking, the kind of people he now understood were worth everything. Outside, Horizon Station continued dying. Entire habitat sections detached into space. Massive fractures spread across the rings. Fires burned across residential districts. The station that had once housed millions was becoming debris, yet thousands had escaped. Not everyone, but enough. Enough mattered. Finally, the last shuttle docked. The evacuation was complete. The time had come. Milo stood outside the reactor compartment. No speeches followed, no grand declarations, just people saying goodbye. His mother hugged him first, long, silent. When she finally stepped away, tears filled her eyes. But pride filled them too. That somehow made everything harder. Then Hana approached. For a moment neither spoke. The outbreak, the station, the journey, Vault Epsilon. Everything felt both impossibly long and impossibly short. "I'm glad I stayed." Milo looked surprised. "What?" "If I had left years ago." Her voice softened. "I never would have met you." The words hung between them, simple, honest, enough. "I'm glad you stayed too." Neither trusted themselves to say more, neither needed to. Some things existed perfectly in silence. The reactor door opened. Brilliant light spilled into the corridor. Warning alarms echoed from within. The chamber looked like the heart of a dying star. Milo took one final breath, then stepped inside. The door began closing, slowly, relentlessly. Just before it sealed, he looked back. At his friends, at his family, at the people he loved. Then the door closed. Emergency containment engaged. Milo crossed the reactor platform. Heat shimmered through the air. The damaged core pulsed with unstable energy. Each surge shook the chamber. Each warning alarm grew louder. He reached the stabilization console, placed both hands on the controls, and activated the sequence. The reactor answered immediately. Power surged through the Wayfarer. Life support stabilized. Navigation returned. Engine systems awakened. Outside, the ship began accelerating away from Horizon Station. The survivors watched through tear-filled eyes. Nobody celebrated. Not yet. Then Horizon Station died. The massive structure fractured completely. A silent bloom of fire expanded above Nereus. Habitat rings shattered. The station vanished, along with the outbreak, along with Milo. Or so everyone believed. Inside the reactor chamber, reality suddenly changed. The alarms vanished. The heat vanished. The reactor vanished. Light consumed everything. Endless, brilliant, impossible. And through that light came the voice, the ancient voice. The voice beyond Vault Epsilon. You chose them. The words carried neither judgment nor command, only curiosity, only wonder. Milo felt entire civilizations brush against his awareness. Worlds, stars, histories older than humanity. He sensed countless paths, countless choices, countless species. And somehow the choice he had made mattered. You chose others over yourself. The light intensified. Milo expected fear. Instead, he felt peace. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't wondering whether he had done enough. He knew. The final image that entered his mind was not the station, not the reactor, not the cosmic doorway. It was his friends laughing aboard the Wayfarer. Alive, together, safe. The light expanded, the stars disappeared, and Milo Vance vanished into the unknown. Epilogue. A new horizon. 3 years later. The stars looked different now. Not because the universe had changed, because humanity had. The refugee fleet drifted peacefully above the ocean world of New Carina. What began as a desperate evacuation had become something extraordinary. Cities rose along crystal coastlines. Research stations floated above turquoise seas. Shipyards orbited overhead. Children played beneath skies their parents had never expected to see. Humanity had survived. Against infection, against collapse, against extinction. And yet Horizon Station had never truly disappeared. Its memory lived everywhere. In the schools, in the memorials, in the stories. Most of all, it lived inside the people who had escaped. Especially Hana Cho. 3 years earlier, she had been an engineer who stayed behind because leaving felt wrong. Now she directed New Carina's planetary infrastructure program. Thousands depended on her decisions every day. Sometimes that still felt strange. Sometimes she still expected to wake up inside Tower 17. Sometimes she still dreamed about Horizon Station. And about Milo. Tonight those memories felt unusually close. The annual remembrance ceremony had just ended. Families slowly departed. Children carried lanterns toward the shoreline. The ocean reflected the stars like a second sky. Only a few people remained near the memorial. Rex, Ava, Milo's mother, and Hana. The statue stood overlooking the sea, Milo holding a maintenance toolkit, exactly the way he would have hated, which was exactly why Rex had approved the design. I still think it makes him look responsible, Rex said. It does, Ava replied. He'd complain about that. Constantly. Soft laughter drifted across the shoreline. The years had eased the pain, not erased it. Some losses never disappear. You simply learn how to carry them. Ava eventually looked toward the stars. The Exploration Council approved the mission. Everyone turned. Nobody needed clarification. The mission, the signals, the impossible sphere, the mystery beyond Vault Epsilon. For 3 years, scientists had analyzed every fragment recovered from Horizon Station. The conclusions remained unsettling. The infection had not been random. Project Erebus had not been the beginning. Vault Epsilon had not been a prison. It had been a warning. Something ancient existed beyond known space. Something intelligent. Something that had been watching long before humanity learned to build cities. And according to every surviving sensor record, it had noticed humanity. Hana looked toward the darkening horizon. 3 years. 3 years of questions. 3 years without answers. 3 years without knowing what truly happened inside the reactor chamber. "We still don't know if he's alive." Her voice was quiet, honest. Nobody rushed to answer, because nobody knew. No body had ever been found. No remains, no evidence. Only light, only mystery, only hope. A warm breeze rolled across the shoreline. The memorial lights flickered. Once, twice, 3 times. Everyone froze. Not because they were afraid, because they remembered. The same flicker, the same impossible pattern. Horizon station. Vault Epsilon. The sphere. The lights flickered again. Then every communication device near the memorial activated simultaneously. Wrist communicators, maintenance drones, public displays, navigation beacons, all of them. A low hum filled the air. The ocean itself seemed to grow still. Then a dormant maintenance drone rolled slowly toward the statue, its optical sensor illuminated. Blue, soft, familiar. The machine stopped. A hologram appeared. Static swirled through the air. The image struggled to form. Then everyone stopped breathing. A silhouette stood among unfamiliar stars. Distorted, distant, yet unmistakable. A maintenance toolkit hung from one hand. The figure looked toward them, toward friends, toward family, toward home. A familiar voice emerged through the static. "Still filing complaints, Rex?" Silence. Then Rex laughed. Then cried. Then laughed again. Which felt exactly right. But this time the transmission did not immediately end. The image stabilized. Only for a few seconds. Long enough for one final message. "Milo," Hana whispered. The silhouette turned toward her, across impossible distance, across 3 years, across whatever separated them. Then came the final words. "Tell them." Static surged, the image fractured. For a moment everyone thought the connection was lost. Then the message returned. "We're not alone." The transmission ended. Every display went dark. The drone powered down. The shoreline became quiet once more. Nobody spoke, because everybody understood. This wasn't a farewell. It was an invitation. Far beyond New Carina, far beyond known space, far beyond anything humanity understood. Milo Vance stood upon an impossible shoreline beneath unfamiliar constellations. A vast cosmic ocean stretched endlessly before him. The ancient presence stood nearby. Not hostile, not benevolent, curious, ancient beyond imagination. Before them, thousands of lights drifted across the cosmic sea. Worlds, civilizations, species, entire histories, the voice spoke. "You chose others over yourself." Milo smiled. "Someone had to." The presence seemed amused. Then the ocean of stars unfolded. New pathways appeared. New civilizations, new mysteries. And somewhere in that endless expanse something was coming. Not an invasion. Not a war. A signal. One that had been traveling toward humanity for a very long time. The next chapter had already begun.
That is our story for tonight. Heroism does not always begin with confidence, strength, or certainty. Sometimes it begins with one ordinary person choosing not to run, and choosing to be there when the moment finally arrives. If you like this story, please like, subscribe, and comment below. It really helps. Let me know if you'd like to hear more from this world. Until next time, thank you for listening.